was the last time you spoke to a stranger? I don't mean small talk with the person behind the counter at the post office when you were sending that last minute card you forgot to send your friend and you were praying that it made it to them on time. I mean a real conversation with someone you've never met. One of those conversations that leaves you thinking. One of those conversations that you think back on years later and you can't help but smile. As I read more headlines about how divided of a society we are, or how the pandemic has made the divide even worse, I realize that the biggest changes in my life over the last few years have come from talking to random strangers all around the world. It's one of my most favorite things in the world to do, and over the last few years, I've built up a life where I get to do this every single day. I didn't even realize it until recently how important this habit had become to me in my life. I meet people from all walks of life, all backgrounds, people with all types of different problems that you and I can completely relate to. So I decided it was time to start sharing these stories of the people that I have the pleasure of meeting. Because hopefully you can see that though it might feel like we're so different, we're actually so alike. And hopefully you can find the courage yourself to say hello to someone and strike up a little chat. So with that, I'd like to say, hi, I'm Matt Hayes, and this is episode number 1 of Meet a Stranger. I met stranger number 1 at one of the most obvious places strangers converse every single day on this planet. Yep, a bar. Some random Sunday night I stopped by my friend's bar to chat with them and ended up talking to stranger number 1 for hours. She's from Illinois, in her early 30s, and wanted to show me photos of her rescue dogs, and I was very happy to oblige. Early on, I noticed she had on a wedding ring, but after telling me all about herself and her life and what she's been doing, she never mentioned anything about a husband. So I asked her about that. After a pause, she said, "We're separated. I think I want a divorce." From there, the conversation got real about love and life. She met her then husband at 19, dated a while, got married a few years later, was married 5 years before separating, and just recently filing for divorce. One thing I've always been curious about is how different we become as time passes. A person can become a completely different person from the time they graduate college versus the time they hit their 30s, especially after the mess this world has become over the last few years. So I asked her about that. Take a listen. Looking back on who you were at 19 versus 33, tell me about that. What crosses your mind when you think about that?
Completely different person. Not in like I was better or worse or anything like that. I just grew and I changed a lot. And priorities and goals and all of that stuff changed so much in my 20s. And I think I settled into who I am in my 30s.
So why did you get married in the first place then?
He was a great guy. We had so much fun together. It was safe, comfy. Wanted to have a big wedding and do all that fun stuff.
Who are you now that you are surprised to learn that you might have not been when you were 19? Like, what have you evolved into that maybe if you would, your 19-year-old self would look at you now after going through all this, you'd go, wow, I would not expect that about her. I would not expect that about me.
I'm a lot more career-driven than I thought I was. I get a lot more fulfillment out of a career, especially having, went to college for something different, then graduated, did something totally different, and now I'm doing something totally different. And I always thought that was a bad thing I thought I had to have, one career and be that person forever. And so it always used to make me anxious when I was that age that I didn't have one set thing that I wanted to do. But now I love it, and I like being flexible.
Do you think that career had a play in the marriage ending?
Kind of, but in a weird way, because I had a career before that wasn't a 9-to-5. I was fully devoted. It was my whole life. We were not in a good place, and he was always addicted to his job and constantly working, and so we both decided to change jobs. I wanted to change jobs and careers for a few other reasons, but he said he was going to change to a new company so I could pull back and focus on other parts of my life too, and I thought that meant our marriage, but he didn't uphold his end of that deal, so then I just found other things outside of work to be excited about and passionate about, and I just moved on without him.
So what are you excited about with this next chapter then?
I just feel a lot more confident in who I am and who I bring into my life, and keep following my gut.
It's so refreshing to hear someone embrace their change instead of fighting it, especially after the last 2 years. The world put up a mirror in front of all of us in the form of a pandemic and made us ask ourselves some really tough questions. Was it easy? Nope. But if you take the time to listen, embrace it, and live from those answers, who knows what kind of amazing chapter life can bring you next. Thanks to Stranger Number 1 for being my podcast guinea pig. You rock. For more stories, be sure to subscribe to Ask a Stranger on whatever app you choose to listen to podcasts. There are so many, just pick one. And you can also follow me on the socials at Matt Hayes. That's MattHaze. Until next time, do me a favor. When you're out and about, look around, find someone and say hello to them. Who knows what you'll learn when you meet a stranger.